Hello, how are you? I hope you're having a good day. I am Inwook Park. I am a current graduate student at Graduate School of International Studies at Seoul National University in Korea. I'm currently majoring in international cooperation, and I'm very much interested in development studies. And I'm very glad that I am able to present in the DSA 2022 conference, and I hope to learn a lot from other presenters too. So today I'm going to share my research on the impact of Korea's Digital New Deal on gender equality. Now, this is a very imminent and very urgent issue, digital technology and gender equality, because as we know, um, since the emergence of the fourth industrial revolution, or even the first industrial revolution, has become rapidly adopted around the world, but its impact on gender inequality is given much less attention. Countries are more focused on economic development and growth rather than truly understanding its impact on other things. It's more of a side effect that they are not aware of until these problems rise up. Same thing goes to other issues such as intergenerational gaps, the lack of inclusive growth that fails to incorporate people with disabilities, for example. So there is a special relationship between technology and the role or the socioeconomic status of women in our society. Although South Korea has rapidly developed economically and is one of the leading countries in terms of digital technology, it is ranked 102nd out of 156 countries according to the Global Gender Gap Index of 2021. And as I'll further show you, South Korea has a high level of gender inequality in this country. Now, we all know that South Korea is, to a certain extent, a pretty developed country, previously a aid recipient, but now it is a aid provider. And it is well known for its developed economy centered around technology and information, communication technology in particular. But even so, apparently, the gender inequality is a bit of a problem in our country. Here are some macro indicators of South Korea. For example, the labor force participation rate difference between men and women within the working age population among OECD countries. You can see on the left chart that Korea is positioned in seventh, meaning that it's very high, the labor force participation rate difference between men and women compared to other countries. On the right, we see the gender wage gap among the OECD countries regarding employees. And Korea actually has the highest gender wage gap, above 30%. Why is this so, right? And in the bottom chart, we see that the share of female managers, Korea is just second to Japan. It has the second lowest share of female managers. Basically, in the economy, females or women are not in the leading positions or the leading roles. So we see that South Korea is lagging behind a lot of macro indicators regarding gender equality. There are different degrees to gender equality and different stages because it has a wide spectrum. And usually in the first level, we talk about accessibility. Now, Korea is a developed country. So in terms of accessibility, we don't have that much of a problem. Regarding internet usage within the last month and number of internet users, we see that there aren't real differences between males and women's, males and females. Although in the year of 2008, regarding the number of internet users, we see there is a bit of a difference, 3,000 people. The unit is in thousands here. But as we go over the years, particularly last year, there really is no difference. It's just only 1,000 difference between males and females. But in terms of female representation in data industry and VR, a virtual reality or augmented reality industry in Korea, there are huge differences. We see males are highlighted in orangish color here, and females are highlighted in greenish color here. And we see that the numbers are very, very different. A lot more males are employed in these sectors. As we can also see on the right, this is the VR and AR industry. The difference is, again, very stark. And amidst such a situation where gender equality is clearly not achieved in Korea, the Korean government has come up with this thing called the Korea's New Deal. Of course, from the wording and the naming, you can understand that it's kind of modeling after the United States New Deal from Franklin D. Roosevelt back in the early 1900s. And in this New Deal is comprised of three things: the Digital New Deal, the Green New Deal, and stronger safety nets. So basically, the Digital New Deal is about expanding and strengthening the digitalization of the economy and the society as a whole. And we see that there are several things that they're concerned about. And the Green New Deal is about using green technology and trying to achieve low carbon economy in the near future. And the stronger safety nets are about securing a safety net for people who may get out of job or who may have to transition to different jobs. Now, this is the part where the Korean government does acknowledge that there may be problems in terms of people having to adjust themselves to this new form of economy, because digital technology is not for everyone, right? You need to educate yourself, and you need to retrain yourself to be able to function as a productive worker in terms of digital technology. So the real question here is, before moving on, in the of this New Deal, the Korean government is really focusing on the Digital New Deal. Now, in terms of budgetary allocation, the Green New Deal has a little bit more than the Digital New Deal, and the stronger safety nets have a minimal amount of the budget. But their emphasis is greatly based on Digital New Deal and the idea of, for example, the digital dam, which is the management of data and allowing people access to the data so that they can come up with business items. So my research question is, what is the impact of Korea's Digital New Deal on gender equality? This is really, it was a natural concern that rose up, because with more rapid advanced technological development in a society, how would this impact those who are traditionally not really concentrated in that area of life? So here are some literature reviews about that. The relationship between technological development and women is very important. Digital technology, unlike traditional forms of technology used in manufacturing industries, require intelligence and physical power, a trait that can favor women, according to Haraway. So basically, this is an advocate point of view, or a positive point of view regarding how technology could benefit women in the long future. But there are skeptics too, and critics as well. The World Economic Forum, in its 2016 report, for example, The Future of Jobs, forecasts several threats of the fourth industrial revolution to women, such as unemployment and income inequality. And in tandem with this, in Korea, there may not be enough time for women to learn new digital technologies and devices, because even right now, as we have seen a few slides ago, that such industries are predominantly male-centric. And because information technology industries are already male-centric, it is difficult for women to enter such organizational structures and go up the ranks, as they will have to fight against not only social gender norms, but also organizational gender norms and stereotypes. This is the framework that we're going to work with, which was presented by Barsina et al. In 2013. There are three different dimensions to gender equality when it comes to digital technology. The first is digital accessibility, the second is digital skill, and the third is digital leadership. Basically, digital accessibility refers to whether one has access to digital devices and the internet. Skills refer to one's ability to use digital technology, such as can you use Excel or can you program? Leadership refers to how many women are in managerial or decision-making positions. This will be referred to in the following observations. So the methodology is simple. It's a qualitative research. I have reviewed published documents from the government's official websites and statistics, and research from secondary sources. So here are two main observations that are divided into sub-observations. So observation one would include positive impact of the Digital New Deal on gender equality. Now, the first of that observation, we see that more people will have better access to the internet as a result of the Digital New Deal. Korea already has wide connectivity, but not all schools have good Wi-Fi connections. According to the government's report on its achievements, 310,000 classrooms have gained access to high-performance Wi-Fi networks as of June 2021 due to the Digital New Deal, and 255,000 old computers were replaced. This is a progress indeed, and the government is seeking to provide more Wi-Fi connections, high-performance Wi-Fi connections in the future as well as the years develop. But it is important to understand whether it is a significant change, because as we saw a few slides ago, people don't have that much of a difficulty in accessing internet or using digital devices. Most Korean students, regardless of male or female, have stable access to the internet. However, it is important to understand that schools in regions outside of major cities may benefit greatly from this, because although Korea is known for its high connectivity, this is not always true for all regions, especially those regions that are far away from major cities. So because there are women living there too, and girls living there too, it would greatly benefit them in terms of accessibility. The second observation regarding the positive impact is that more than 1,000 digital training centers were established throughout the countries, and they provided lessons which covered a broad range from simple digital device usage to programming. And according to the achievements report, career-interrupted women were educated and re-employed. And career-interrupted women would be women whose careers got interrupted for things such as pregnancies, or because they had to transition because they needed to acquire a different skills, for example. In total, 650,000 people were educated and trained in 2021. But 650,000 people are not all women, obviously. This includes males. But the Ministry of Science and ICT does not really provide a gender statistics regarding this, which I'll further touch upon. Observation number 3 of the positive impact is that more companies and startups are utilizing digital technology to address difficulties women experience in daily life. For example, Infinix, a company with advanced artificial intelligence image identification technology, provided cameras that could identify suspicious behavior in front of a house door, which addresses the fear that Korean women have of malicious strangers at their doors. So the use of such digital technology to address gender-related concerns are encouraging, and we can see that because of the Digital New Deal and its incentives, the digital innovation has the potential to enhance women's quality of life. However, there are negative impacts of the Digital New Deal on gender equality in Korea. The lack of a clear vision of sustainable development that incorporates civic participation is evident in the plan, as the proposed safety net only refers to creation of jobs and temporary training, instead of substantial increases in long-term welfare sources. This is true not only in the proposed plan, but also in the projected cost, as I earlier mentioned. The stronger safety net category is allocated the lowest amount of 28.4 trillion won over the span of 5 years, compared to other two new deals. The lack of funds and the lack of a clear pathway as to how to help women adjust to this new digital economy in such policies and announcements and plans by the government shows that they don't really have consideration for women at the focal point of their plans. And this can have further negative impacts as the years go on. The second negative impact is that gender mainstreaming is generally weak in Korea's Digital New Deal. In the Korean government's initial announcement document of the Korean New Deal, there's absolutely no mention of women or gender, which changes in its 2.0 updated version. Instead, umbrella terms such as social safety nets, investment in human resources, and job training are used. As I just said, after a year, the government published an updated version of the Korean New Deal 2.0, where there could be found a single sentence in the English version, referring to the efforts to train career-interrupted women into software experts. More gender-related terms should be used, and more importantly, gender-related concerns should be categorized as a separate issue rather than integrated into the umbrella term of reducing digital gap. The third observation of the negative impact of the digital New Deal is that there is not enough gender-sensitive business innovation. Now, I previously mentioned this as a positive impact, that there are some business innovations. But if you look at it from the bigger scale of things, of 121 model cases of digital inclusion selected by the Ministry of Science and ICT, only 13 of them focus on providing digital training, education, and services to women. Now, this is of the model cases. Now, if you can imagine of how many total cases of which that focus on women, we see that the number is very small. This represents the usual women representation in the information technology industry, as we have seen earlier, that women representation in the employment sector of the information technology industry is not high. It pales in comparison to men. Such lack of concern for women involvement in digital technology may push women to the fringe, not the core of the digital economy, because women issues are not dealt with, and also because if women are not trained or educated in the digital technology and how to use it and how to understand them, then their labor skills or their utility of human capital would only be useful for other things rather than the actual focus of the digital economy. Now, the last observation of the negative impact is again referring to the digital training center. Now, I also mentioned this as a positive impact, that digital training centers, over 1,000 of them has been established, and they provide digital training for people. But if you look at who were actually trained in the chart here, which is from the government's official webpage, it says that 44.4% of the people who took the classes were above the age of 60. Now, I told you that around 656,000 people went through these classes, and that's a high number. But 44% of them are above 60. 13.6% of them are above 50 years old. And the remaining percentage here is around 40%. It's unclear as to how many women benefited from these training centers because there are no reports on gender. First of all, a high percentage is on the 50s and the 60s. But of the lower percentage, we don't even know how many women are here that actually do benefit from these training centers. Now, intergenerational digital divide is an important issue, but it is evident that young women of the working age population may not be really benefiting from these digital training centers, or perhaps they don't even know that these digital training centers exist. So there are 3 recommendations that I have for this Korean New Deal. First, the digital New Deal needs to be gender sensitive. More reports on gender-based statistics should be made. For example, on the website for digital training centers, statistics on how many women from which age group signed up in comparison to males should be analyzed and presented. And also in official publications and government's official website for the digital new divide, gender representation in education, training, and employment should be separated into an independent category. Perhaps they could call it a gender new deal. Second, there needs to be more active encouragement or even incentives for startups and companies to incorporate gender-sensitive issues into their innovative business items. Data vouchers could have another condition of being provided to companies that are willing to devise solutions for girls' digital education. Third, incorporate the voice of women in the decision-making process. Now, this leads to the framework that I've talked about in the beginning. Digital accessibility, digital skills, and digital leadership. Regarding accessibility, we already have high level of accessibility, and the Digital New Deal already is already planning to provide more high performance Wi-Fi connectivity. So we have no real problem regarding that. Perhaps regional gaps could exist that should be looked into further. Regarding digital skills, this is from where the problem begins. We need to try and encourage or at least provide more opportunities for people to learn digital technology and digital knowledge. But as we have seen from the digital training centers, we're unsure, and we assume that there aren't that many women of the active working age population that do take these classes and benefit from them. Now, regarding digital leadership, uh, uh, we need to incorporate the voice of women in the decision-making process. The Korean government should try to communicate more with civic organizations and the community as a whole as on their concerns with such rapid digitalization of the economy. Then, better understanding of the impact of the digital New Deal on women can happen, and the likelihood of addressing such issues and threats will rise. So in conclusion, note that because the Digital New Deal is ongoing, it began in 2020 and still has 3 more years to go, the impact on gender equality is not yet clear. Further noting that educational and training usually has a delay effect. So a true understanding of this impact will be possible only a few years after the completion of the New Deal. However, this research sought available information and data via published materials to provide a check on how much of a sustainable concern the policy is giving to gender issues. Because this New Deal is relatively new, and because it was conducted by the government, there aren't many scholarly research on this, or there aren't that many voices of concern relating digital New Deal and its impact to gender equality. So I think in that sense, this research could perhaps ignite such debate. And the Korean government should be alert on the potential threat the digital New Deal poses to women. So that is all that I have to share for today. Digital revolution and further advancements in technology is definitely good. It is good for the growth and for the betterment of human life, the quality of life, but it is not good if it is not done in a sustainable manner. And therefore, as a front runner of digital technology, and also as a aid provider, and as a country that proclaims to be contributing to development cooperation, to international development cooperation, I think it's important for Korea, the Korean government, to truly understand the sustainable aspects of their policies. And in this case, in terms of gender equality. Thank you.